Today I'm going to show you how I drew this portrait of a boy. Unfortunately, the video is a bit blurry, but it gets better in the end, so just hang in there. And if you're interested in knowing how I shade, that's quite a common question, how I shade my drawings, how I get the smooth shading. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And if you want me to do educational stuff, how to draw eyes, noses, hair, mouths, just subscribe, leave a comment here somewhere. So here you can see me drawing. Usually I start with the eyes. It's because those shapes are the easiest to draw because oftentimes there are a lot of contrasts. Many of the surfaces on the face, they are so subtle, and I like starting off with something that I know is going to be where you can be bold, where you can go in with the shading and the blacks and just don't have to be afraid. I think that's one thing that a lot of people do, is being afraid of the contrasts. But I think if you go in and just, if you see something is very dark, just draw it like that. Just be bold and go in with the dark, and the rest is so much easier when you have those contrasts already in there. I always make sure that the shapes are correct and that I'm pleased with the sketch before I go in with a dark pencil, because it's so hard to erase dark marks. And oftentimes when I'm doing the skin, you can see me start off with the HB pencil and just lay it on the side and gently sweep the paper, just barely touch the paper. And oftentimes I use a cloth or a piece of paper or something like that to just carefully rub the paper to distribute the graphite. And yeah, here you can see as well that in the middle of the mouth there will be a very dark area, but in the picture I could see that you can barely see that there's something in there. It's his tongue, obviously, but then you have to just, you don't know where the transitions are because they are so subtle. You just have to start and work your way darker, if you understand, just to till you think it looks like that there is a tongue in there. And when I use a towel or a paper towel or something, it often lifts up a bit of the graphite. So when I'm working like that, I am aware that some of it will disappear. I will have to layer many times, and especially when it's very subtle. Actually, the skin is the worst part. I don't like drawing the skin. It takes a lot of time. You cannot rush skin, at least not baby skin, because it's so subtle. The transitions are so hard to see, and you just have to start with the darkest areas, and even those I don't do very dark in the beginning. I just have to mark where they are and work my way darker as I go. Yeah, oftentimes I will start where it's darkest and just shade the darkest area with a HB just to map out where the shades are. And then gradually I use 2B, 4B, 6B, and if necessary, I actually seldom, at least in a baby's face, I normally use 4B as the darkest pencil, like around the nose and perhaps the eyes, around the eyes. But when I do the blacks, I go in with a black pencil, a black colored pencil, and just go black. Sometimes I use charcoal, sometimes for shading I use charcoal. I just take a charcoal stick, rub it on some paper so I get this powder, and I dip my pencil in it, and I'm so careful that there's not a lot of pigment on it, and just rub it on the paper in circular motions very carefully, and start with the darkest. With experience you know how to do this, and often I use this cloth. That's mainly on the skin. I use that because then I will get the transitions, and I need to layer a lot more because it lifts up some graphite, but then I have control. And if I use paper stumps, that's mostly in the transitions, like perhaps around the nose. Sometimes I use a paper stump that is already full of graphite to just define around the nose and areas that I know will be dark. I really like the paper stump to bring the graphite down into the paper, but on the skin I think it almost gets darker, especially if the stump is a little bit dark before. So I like to use the stump for creases in the clothing and places where you want the deep dark shades without lifting up the graphite. In a drawing like this, there are not many places that are bright white. Normally you can see that in the eyes, and even the whole reflection in the eyes is normally not bright white. Perhaps just the smallest part is white. And the same with the eyes. Don't be afraid to go in there and darken those up. That's something you need to do to get the curvature of the eye. The last thing you see is me just darkening up those places that need to be dark. And there are probably some things I didn't explain. The video is not that long. If you want to see something longer with more explanations, let me know.